Universal. UFO space.
So another case like this, which is really interesting, is the case of NASA frame AS10 324822. This is a photograph or a series of photographs that was taken over the lunar surface, right in the middle, sinus meta E, the C in the middle, where the Apollo 10 spacecraft was flying by and took photographs of this area. This is dead center on the lunar disk. If you were to look at the lunar disk, you'd see a triangular-shaped crater called secrt, and then right next to it is the sinus meta E area. It's also an area where Surveyor 4 disappeared in midair while descending to a landing there, just like a bug went splat on a windshield. So this is the photograph. This is an original analog image. It's been scanned in by researchers back in the 1990s. And it looks pretty straightforward. This is actually AS10 324810. So it's a couple images earlier. It's 12 images earlier than that, over the sinus meta E region. And you notice in the background that there's all this weird sort of stuff. You see all this light sources, all these, that can't be stars because the frame exposure is 1/250th of a second. If you go much longer than that, the whole foreground is going to be washed out with light. So it has to be really, really rapid, so it can't possibly be far distant stars and galaxies and planets. But if you enhance this image, if you brighten up the background, it gets even weirder because this is what the background is. So what you see is that these light points are actually just points of structure that is in this massive, miles-high geometric structure above the lunar surface, over the C in the middle, sinus meta E. Now, if you notice, there are these crisscrossing lines, and people are like, oh, those are just scratches on the negative. Well, but that doesn't make any sense because when do scratches on the negative follow the curvature of the lunar surface? And when do they intersect at 90-degree angles like these do? And again, as an engineer, I look at this, I look at the spacing. I say, this is exactly how I would construct a grid-like structure over the surface of the moon. If you zoom in on it, there's this sort of box-like shape. And here's spars coming this way and spars coming that way, and here's one crossing. And these are all not scratches. These all have structure to them. They all have, if you look at them really, really closely, they all have segments. They all have aspects to them that make them appear to be engineering. And when you enhance it, put a color into it, it looks even weirder. Here's another version with a slightly darker background. So then you get a couple of pictures later, and you go to AS10 324816, so 4 photographs later, over the surface of sinus meta E, and you have the same phenomenon. You have these little points of light which should not be there at all. And then when you enhance that background, you see this. This looks like, I don't know, skyscrapers on the moon, the Twin Towers. I mean, when you look and zoom up on this, and also notice, this isn't some sort of like digital artifact, because if it was, it would be over the whole thing, yet there's this big hole through which you can see stuff in the background, more big towering stuff. And when you zoom up on the edges of that, you can see just how weird they are. They look like big glass skyscrapers. So having found this stuff, Hoagland was really interested in finding more. So he went and he got himself an old North American photographic catalog from the time period. And as he looked at these images, he went and he said, oh, well, look at some of these other ones. These other catalog images don't look like much at all. They look really underexposed, including this one, which is completely blacked out. It's like they left the lens cap on the camera or something. So what did he do? He ordered the blacked out photograph. And when he got AS10 32 48 22, again taken just 6 frames later, he got this area of sinus meta E, which is about the size of the Los Angeles basin and has been analyzed by geologists who said this is a completely non-natural pattern. Again, 90 degrees, crisscrossing streets, that kind of thing, as if you were looking at Los Angeles. And as you zoom up on it, it gets even weirder. And then there are objects that appeared that then seem to disappear. What they did is they ordered 4822. Once they thought they had something, they ordered 4822 from 9 different NASA archives that existed at the time where you could get photographic prints. Hawaii, Maryland, Washington, D.C. And what they found is that all 9 of the versions of AS10 32 48 22 were different. So what they realized was that what they were looking at was probably a power winder sequence. The spacecraft is moving left to right. The astronaut's looking out the window. He's got a power winder on his Hasselblad. He pushes down his finger and takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so objects would appear in some versions of 4822 and disappear in others. Here's an example of one of those. It looks like a giant paperclip near Los Angeles. If you go back to Los Angeles, that object should be right here. It's not there. But then the next frame, it is there because the light changes. So this is a huge antenna. This tower is a couple hundred feet tall. And whatever this thing is, it's an antenna or something, it does not belong on the moon if the moon is what NASA tells us it is. And there are other frames through the area of 4822 that show weird light reflections, like there's lights on down there. And then there's this object, which is my favorite one on the various versions of 4822. It's pretty famous. It's called the Castle. And it appears to be hanging amidst all this stuff, just hanging there in space, miles above the lunar surface. It has segments that clearly look to me to be structural. There's even an indication of a sagging line, scaffolding or a sagging line that it's hanging from. You can see that the weight of this thing is pulling on this wire that it's hanging from. And it does appear in a couple different versions of the frame. Here's the one with the wire, and then this one is obviously the next one over, another step over, where the thing has not reflected the light because now the spacecraft has moved, so it's changed direction just a little bit. The wire disappears that it's hanging from, and it's narrower. See how it's narrower than it is here. But
it's underexposed.
Right, and basically because the light geometry is fading. The light is not now bouncing directly into the camera like it was a split second before that, because the spacecraft is moving at thousands of miles an hour. And again, you go up to the edge of it and you can see that there's sort of an internal geometry to it. There's a lot of cells and structures. It is absolutely fascinating. And they knew what was on these because they hid all 9 of these photographs under one frame number. It should be 4822, 4823, 4824, all the way up to 4832, but it's not. It's all buried under one frame number, which I will remind you, blacked out in the catalog because they didn't want anybody to look at it. But because of the religious aspects of this, the weird, strange symbolism